and welcome back to my channel, Welsh Reviews. I'm Gareth, and happy Halloween season. So yes, we're into October now, and I thought we got the 4 weeks until Halloween. I thought I'd do every Friday my top 10 movies of each decade I've been on this earth. So I'd start with the 80s and today's. Next week will be the 90s, then the noughties, and then the 2010s. Obviously not going to do 2020s. Obviously we're only nearly halfway through that year. But I thought, yeah, just do my top 10 and all that. So we'll just jump straight into it. Might be a few surprises over the next coming weeks and all that. But number 10, we have Critters. So this is a 1986 movie. It does get compared with Gremlins quite a lot. And I don't blame it. Gremlins came out 2 years prior to this. Kind of the same movie a bit. It is, but I have heard the screenplay for this one was made before Gremlins, so take out with a pinch of salt if you want. It is, but I love this movie. Directed by Stephen Herrick. Does star the horror legend herself, Dee Wallace, Billy Green Bush as a husband, Scott Grimes, Nadine Van der Vaar as their kids, a young Billy Zane as Nadine's boyfriend in the movie, and also Lynn Shay is in this movie as well, another horror legend. So pretty much Critters, the Krites escape a maximum prison in space, steal a ship, make it to Earth, and start eating their way through the cattle on a farm. So you have his family then trying to survive against them, and a couple of alien bounty hunters that come down there that can shapeshift into any species they want. So brilliant mix of horror comedy in this. Not so much like number two. Number two used to be my favorite for a long time, but with the horror, I like the horror aspect of this movie a lot more. It is, and that's why it is my number 10. So we go into number 9 now, and that is one of John Carpenter's, and to me it is John Carpenter's most underrated movie to date. I think I've said it plenty of times over in this channel, and that is Prince of Darkness. So obviously written, directed by the legend himself, John Carpenter. Does star Donald Pleasance, Victor Wong, a collaborator with John Carpenter with Big Trouble in Little China. Also Dennis Dunn, he was in that as well. Jameson Parker and Lisa Blount are the two love interests in the movie, kind of like the mainish characters as well. So it pretty much is a priest gets a key to an old church, and underneath is the embodiment of evil, let's say. Not so much the devil, but evil. So as in like a big casket with liquid and that, and we have these university students with their teacher go there to find out, and then while a couple of them get infected by the thing, it's a fight for survival and not letting an evil come to Earth. Very underrated movie in my opinion. Love the soundtrack as well. Carpenter, just, yeah, brilliant soundtrack to this as well. But like I said, his most underrated movie in my opinion. So that is my number 9. So we go into number 8 and we get a Friday the 13th movie. And a lot of people might put number 1 because it's the nostalgia and it was the first one to kick it all off. To me, this and another one was... I could have put both of the ones I wanted to in this thing, but I thought I'd leave it to one, and it is Friday the 13th Part 4. I always have this one at the top of my list. Part 6 is a very close second to me and all that, but I love the horror aspect of this movie. It is. I think Joseph Zito did the direction, done a brilliant job with the atmosphere and stuff like that. It does star Kristen Glover, not as one of the main characters, but he is in it before his Back to the Future fame. Corey Feldman as a young Tommy, part of the family. Kimberly Beck as his sister Trish. It is. They have his mother, Joan Freeman as Mrs. Jarvis as well, and a whole host of others, kids for Michael to have his slaying ways with. So it pretty much picks up straight after Part 3, where he supposedly dies, wakes up in the morgue, makes his way back to Camp Crystal Lake, where these teens have rented a house right next to the Jarvis family, and yeah, he hunts them down, kills them, etc. Does have a thing of trying to tie in with Part 2, because one of the girls who died in Part 2 One of the guys in this plays her brother. Eric Anderson plays Rob, which is her brother, who comes back to check it all out. So very good atmospheric Friday the 13th, and a very much a rare occasion, really, with a franchise where the first movie ain't the best in the series. But that's my opinion. It is. I know a lot of people will probably put part 6 in their top 10 instead of part 4, but I think the horror in this one is a lot better than part 6. So that is my number 8. So we go into number 7, and we have Night of the Creeps. So this is directed and written by Fred Dekker. First time I watched this was a few years ago, and it is a yearly watch for me. Such a fun movie. A proper 80s fun sci-fi horror movie. Stars the legend himself, Tom Atkins, Jason Lively, and Steve Marshall as two friends in this as well. Jill Whitlow as the love interest of the movie as well. A load of other people as well in this as well. So a little bit about the story. Aliens above us and all that. One of the aliens has a virus that he ejects onto Earth, and it's like little slugs. So it ends up being in the 1950s, I think the start of the movie is. We see a young, well, not Tom Atkins, but his character, a young policeman and all that. A guy who's, and another escaped asylum seeker. And yeah, the slugs get into these bodies and that and start turning people into zombies. So Tom Atkins kills not the asylum guy, but the boyfriend of his ex, who happens to be infected, who found the crater where the virus was. And then we jump to the 80s there, where the two friends, for a frat dare, have to go into a cryogenics lab and all, and accidentally let loose the infected person from the 50s. And then everyone gets affected, and we get the one brilliant line from the movie as well, which is done by Tom Atkins. He's got good news and bad news, ladies. Good news is your dates are here. The bad news is they're dead. So brilliant. Tom Atkins, top of his billing on this one. It is. He is absolutely brilliant in this movie, and he is at the Love of Horror again this year, so can't wait to meet him again. Have another autograph with him. But yeah, definitely one of my favourites with Tom Atkins in. So that is my number 7, and we come in at number 6. Arguably one of my favourite zombie movies of all time, and did kind of probably introduce the running zombies for the first time in movies, if I'm not mistaken. And that is the 1985's The Return of the Living Dead. And this is another movie I think I first watched a few years ago for the first time, and it is a yearly watch. Brilliant soundtrack by a lot of punk bands, rock and punk bands. It is directed by Dan O'Bannon. If you recognise that name, is because he is the original screenwriter, or he made the story for the 1979, or is it 79? I think so, Alien, which is obviously directed by Ridley Scott, the brilliant Alien. So he was the original writer for that movie. He came up with the story and that he did. So that's if you recognise that. So obviously Tom Matthews is in this movie as well. You recognise him from Friday the 13th Part 6. It is. And he has he come back to do Womp Stomp's Never Hike Alone Friday the 13th movies as well, like the fan movies. It is. So yeah, he's in this, and pretty much this is a kind of a play on. They couldn't do a direct sequel to The Night of the Living Dead for some reason. So this is what if Night of the Living Dead was real? And they have like the story about that, saying how that came about. And Tom Matthews is at a new job with James Karen, I think it is, who plays Frank, his work partner in it. And he wants to show off a little bit and shows a casket with a zombie inside, accidentally unleashes it, or unleashes the thing. They get affected, and then the surrounding area, because they're right next to a morgue and a cemetery, starts bringing the dead back to life. And then you have Tom Matthews, Freddy's characters, friends who are punks and all that, coming to see him and that. And then we get very good gory some gory kills in this movie. Another aspect I liked about this movie as well, where one of the zombies, they actually speak. So they have a little bit of intelligence, not just mindless zombies walking around. They actually, like when the police come and all that, and the ambulance, they actually radio and say, oh, bring more people because they want more brains. And when they capture a zombie, the zombie explains to them of why they eat brains, because the pain they feel of the hunger in them needs them to eat brains. So brilliant zombie movie, definitely up there as one of my favorite. Not my favorite, I always do favour Night of the Living Dead, kind of one of the first-ish zombie movies, but I always love that movie. That one always sits on top for me, and it was in my top 10 horror movies, if I'm not mistaken, when I done a while back now. It is, but yeah, love this movie, and definitely it had to be in my top 10 for the 80s. So that is number 6, and next is number 5. So coming in at number 5, and it is my favourite werewolf movie of all time, which I might have added my top 10 80s horror movies of all time as well, and that is An American Werewolf in London. When you talk about two horror movies or werewolf movies from the 80s, it's either this or The Howling. I like The Howling, but I'm not the biggest fan of when they take it away from the beginning of with a prostitute killer who happens to be a werewolf. It is, but I love American Werewolf in London. It is directed by John Landis and written by him. Bit of a strange takeaway from what I think, is he was more of a comedy writer and that beforehand, and all his comedy movies, Animal House, etc. It is, but yeah, he done this one. David Norton as David Kelso, the main character. Jenny Agutter as Nurse Alex Price. Griffin Dunn as Jack Goodwin as well. It is a young Rick Mail in this movie in the beginning part as well. It is Brian Glover as a chess player in the beginning as well. Such a brilliant horror comedy movie. Up there as one of the best horror comedy. A bit of gore in this as well. Nice little design for the werewolf as well, which was done by Rick Baker, the legend himself. It was one best thing. Yeah, I think he got nabbed over from The Howling. He was doing Howling, and then they nabbed him for this movie. It is. So pretty much two American hitchhikers going in Scotland or England at the time, and that it is visit a country pub. It is. They get warned about staying off the moors, and that because there's a creature. They don't say creature, but they say stay off the moors. Unfortunately, they don't get attacked by the werewolf. One gets killed, the other doesn't, and then the rest of the movie is him becoming that werewolf again. So kills and thing with a very emotional final act to the movie as well. So yeah, like I said, brilliant comedy horror for this. Definitely up there as one of my favourite movies. I watch every year as well. It is definitely a horror I watch every year, at least once a year, and definitely had to be in my top 5. It did. So we go into number 4, and we go into my favourite, not werewolf, no. We go into my favourite vampire movie now, and that is The Lost Boys. Love this movie. Love the different take on the vampires being a younger kids, or more teens, or older teens, I say 18 to 20 in this movie as well. Directed by Joel Schumacher, who has done pretty much everything in the genre of movies. I think he's done musicals, he's done comedy, he's done horror, he's done comic book movies. He's done the biz, he has. And yeah, this is one of my favourite movies of his as well. Does star the great Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman as well. A lot of famous names in this movie as well. It is Alex Winter from Bill and Ted as well as one of the vampires. Met the cast of these last year. Brilliant bunch of guys in that. It is For the Love of Horror in that. And yeah, brilliant. So pretty much a family after a divorce moves in with her father in Santa Cruz. It is. And you find out then that it is occupied by vampires. So Michael, the oldest brother, falls in with the vampire crowd. they turn him into a vampire, and he slowly starts turning. Sam, who is his younger brother, Corey Haim, who is a lover of horror, finds out about this and meets with the Frog Brothers, who are Corey Feldman's one of them, and I'm not too sure who the next one is. I lost his name. Lost the name of the other one, actor, unfortunately, who played the other Frog Brother as well. It is, so he goes to them for some help, and then they try and help Michael become back to human and slay and kill the other vampires. But then we get a beautiful little twist at the end of the movie, which I won't spoil, even though it's nearly a 40-year-old movie. It is, or 40-year-old movie. I'm not going to spoil it, I'm not. But we do get a nice little twist at the end of the movie. So, very nice little different take on the vampire genre. It is. So, yeah, really much enjoy this. I know out of people, it's either this or Fright Night. I love Fright Night as well, but I kind of like this one just a little bit more. So that is my number 4. And we go into number 3 now, which is another one which ain't the first in a franchise. But a lot of people class this as the best one in that franchise. And that is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. So this is directed by Chuck Russell. One of the writers was Frank Darabont on this movie as well, who done Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, The Mist as well. So, very good there. It is. Stars Heather Landerkamp comes back as Nancy in this. Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. A young Patricia Arquette as one of the main girls in it as well. Kristen. A lot of others. Met a lot of these people in The Love of Horror. Not last year, I think the year before. A few of the kids who were not kids anymore, but who played the kids in the hospital. Another one was in this as well, Lawrence Fishburne. Another young, early movie for him in the 80s as well. So I love this movie. I think it blends the horror and the comedy. I think this is the perfect blend for Freddy in his horror comedy thing. First 2 movies, he's pretty much horror. I think after this movie, I think number 4 does a little good job of horror comedy as well, but the rest just lean too much into the comedy aspect of Freddy in the thing. But I think he balances perfectly in this one. The kills in this movie are brilliant as well. Practical effects are absolutely out of this world. And a pretty good story as well, which is Heather comes back to Springwood. Is a hospital for kids in this one who have tried self-harming and that. And I think these are the last kids of the parents that killed Freddy. So he's pretty much after them in the dreams. Heather's there to try and help them. It is as well. John Saxon comes back as her father as well. And then the end is pretty much just trying to kill Freddy for the final time. And a bit of an emotional ending to the movie as well. But yeah, definitely up there as one of my favourites. I watch the Nightmare on Elm Street movies every year as well. So absolutely amazing. So that is my number 3. So we get into the number 2 spot now. And another one that I think is the best in the franchise, which ain't the first. So a little bit of a thing for this video, to be honest. And that is The Evil Dead 2. So written and directed by Sam Raimi. Stars the legend himself, Bruce Campbell, who I met at a Comic-Con a few years ago. What a guy. Brilliant. If you ever get to meet him. He is absolutely brilliant. Sarah Berry as Annie. Dan Hicks as Jake, Cassie as Bobby, Ted Raimi is Sam Raimi's brother who plays the possessed mother in this, Henrietta it is, and Richard Dominy as Ed, who is Annie's boyfriend at the thing. So this is pretty much you could say it's a sequel to the first one, but kind of like a reboot as well, because they didn't have something to do with the rights of the distribution and that. They couldn't do a direct sequel to the first one. So they had to do a bit of the beginning again, which, if you see in the beginning, is a bit of a different ending. Instead of having a bunch of friends, it's just Bruce and his girlfriend in that one. And they go through the kind of the motions of the first movie, reading the book, getting possessed and all that. So it pretty much takes place then. If you remember the beginning of the end of the first movie where he gets attacked, you could kind of say it starts from there for this movie. So that's why I'm saying it's a bit of a sequel as well to the first movie. But then we have Annie and her boyfriend and all that come to the come to the cabin to see her father, but unfortunately her father and her mother are dead. They think Ash done it, Bruce Campbell's character done it, but in fact it's the Deadites are around the thing. So they've got to try and survive till dawn. It is, but obviously not all of them do. And then he gets transported back to the past then for Army of Darkness, the third movie. But absolutely love this movie. Perfect blend of horror, comedy. Bruce Campbell is absolutely amazing in this movie. He plays the person going mad and then the hero perfectly in this movie. The rest of the class all do a great job. Sam Raimi's, I love his style of direction, his camera work, the sharp close-ups and that, and the POV of a deadite going through the forest and all that is an iconic scenes from these movies. But yeah, definitely has to be up there as my top 2 movies in the 80s, and it is in my top 10 horror movies of all time as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's my number 2, Evil Dead 2. And then we go on to number 1, and if you've been following this channel enough time, you know what it's going to be. It's a John Carpenter classic, and that is The Thing. Written and directed by him as well. Oh, I think he done the screenplay. Oh no, right, there's Bill Lancaster and the original writer of the story, John W. Campbell Jr. You could say this is a remake to The Thing from another universe or another world, but I don't like to call it that. I like to call it's a more proper proper version of the book. So this follows the book really closely, actually, and all that. Might be a couple of differences in there, but it's way more closer to the book than the original movie. So this movie does star the legend himself, Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, Keith David, Richard Mauser, who's from The It. It is T.K. Carter, David Clennon, Richard Dysart, Charles Halloran, Peter Maloney, and Donald Moffat. It does have the voice of Adrian Barbour as well, a little cameo in the movie as well. The only woman you hear in this movie does the chess board machine that Kurt Russell's character MacReady is playing. But this movie, if you don't know it by now, a research team have contact with a Norwegian Arctic team who were attacking a dog. They kill them people. They do. Dog comes into play. You find out then that dog is an alien. It is, and it multiplies and attacks and kills the other dogs and certain people in the camp. MacReady and a couple of others then go to Norwegian camp and then find out about this big flying saucer they found. And then it's all about survival and not letting the thing get to civilization. It is such a brilliant movie which mixes so many genres in this movie as well. It's a mystery, it's a horror, it's a sci-fi, it's a whodunit, an isolation movie as well. It is, could call it a slasher movie as well towards the end of the movie, where Blair, infected by the virus, or as the thing, starts picking off the last remaining characters of the movie as well. The special effects in this movie are some of the best I've ever seen in movies, and I don't think has been matched since this movie, in my personal opinion. It was done by Rob Bottin. He worked so hard in this movie that he had to go to hospital for exhaustion. I think some people, Sam Winston, came in and helped him out for some of the effects as well for this movie. He did, just after he had his exhaustion and that. But this movie is a 10 out of 10 for me. Perfect casting, perfect direction, perfect atmosphere, perfect cinematography by Dean Cundy, who done a lot with John Carpenter as well. Yeah, definitely. You haven't seen this movie, for me, it's the best horror film of all time, in my opinion. It is. I think it's better than Exorcist and Psycho and movies like that from the past. It is definitely 10 out of 10, and that's why it's top of my list. So that is my top 10 80s movies, horror movies of the 80s. Come back next week when I will be doing my 90s one. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Tell me, you don't have to give me your top 10 horror movies of the 80s, but tell me what some of your favourite ones are. It is. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more videos, I guess. And if you do come back next Friday for the 90s top 10. And I will see you then.